So, my first question is, how did your story with plastic pollution begin?
Well, my father was interested in trash. He used to take the family on vacations. We'd visit the dump. Even if we were in a beautiful place like Hawaii, we'd go and see what people were throwing away. And when plastic started appearing in the water near our home, he talked to the city because he used to row his boat around the bay every day and saw the plastic coming and asked if he could clean it up and if they would hire him to do that. And they didn't, but I was then becoming a sailor and seeing that the most common surface item in the ocean was starting to be trash. I mean, you might go to the sea to see dolphins and whales and seabirds, but you're guaranteed to see trash. And so it became the most common surface feature of the ocean. And that bothered me. But I didn't really get into it until I realized that that was not just a coastal phenomenon, but it was in the deep ocean as well. That's how I changed my focus from marine algae to plastic.
Okay. Can you give us a notion of the size of the problem?
It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 tons per day of plastic is going into the ocean. And it's much more than that. I think it was, I can't even remember the scale anymore. It's gotten to that point where we're making the weight of the human population in plastic every year. Every year, the amount of plastic that we make equals the weight of every man, woman, and child on the planet, and we're recycling less than 10% of that. So there's a huge amount that just becomes vagrant waste. And that vagrant waste, a very large proportion of that goes into the ocean. So it's very hard to calculate exactly how much is going into the ocean, but it's an enormous number.
In this sense, do we still have pristine ecosystems in the ocean?
No. As a matter of fact, a scientist asked Dr. Ebbesmeyer if there was such a thing as an organic fish. And you can't have an organic fish that eats plastic. And there's no such thing unless it's in a controlled aquaculture environment. And even then, it's probably dubious that there's such a thing as an organic fish, the fish not affected by man-made chemicals. So there is no remoteness on the planet anymore, and there's no pristine environments anymore. There's relatively more pristine environments, but I'm afraid we've invaded the biosphere completely with our waste.
And what have impressed you more until now, from what you have seen?
Well, there's no one thing that's more impressive than another. What's impressive is that we finally built a movement that's fighting back against the plastic attack. We're being attacked. And this kind of attack by carbon, kind of attack by plastic, which is a solid form of petroleum, this is being perpetuated by the most profitable business on the planet, the petroleum industry. And we're finally fighting back. We're fighting back with technology, by electrification, by solar and wind. We're also fighting back by activists demanding change, because we've been told that we have a very limited time before our planet becomes uninhabitable because of the climate, but it will also become uninhabitable because of the trash. And that's another reason why we must fight back. And that's the most impressive thing, is when I see groups of students. That today we were here and they told me, we're going to have a nice room for you. It's been a short time to advertise, so we don't expect very many people. And we have a small room, maybe seating 50 people. And we're going to have your talk there. And then when we came to the auditorium to give the talk, there were hundreds of people out in the hall. We had to go to a different room and give 2 separate talks. Now this tells me that's the most impressive thing that's happened to me on this trip. And I'm impressed by that because that means that the consciousness of the younger generation and the consciousness of those in positions to know things, like in universities, is such that they realize that we've got to take action against these threats. And plastic is a serious threat
So the solution is really in education.
It's education at first and then action. If education doesn't lead to action, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay, so what have we done so far? What have we accomplished to tackle marine pollution?
Well, we've banned plastic bags in many countries. We've starting to ban styrofoam. We need to do that here in Chile especially. I've seen so much styrofoam on the beaches, it's terrible. We need to make sure the plastic industry doesn't pollute with its plastic pellet feedstock. But we've seen movements against straws, against balloons. Balloon releases are terrible. They're causing a lot of harm. These idea of banning product by product by product is just the first step. What we really need to do is have a radical redesign of the single-use plastic concept so that we're doing more refilling and more reusing. But that goes against the capitalist paradigm, which is to grow the economy. Even the socialists say that they want to provide economic growth. But economic growth is the problem. We can't grow anymore. We're outgrown our ability to survive our own creativity, our own productivity. And because we've outgrown the ability to handle our own productivity, polluting the entire planet, causing our own demise, our economic paradigm is suicidal. We can't grow something that's causing our own suicide. That's stupid. And so we've got to turn around and go the other direction. You can't just speed up and grow and go faster if you're going the wrong direction. We've accomplished what we needed to accomplish by having the tools in place to make labor that's repetitive and laborious obsolete. The robots can do the dirty work. Let's let the robots do the dirty work, and let's plan a beautiful world for the rest of us, but only if we can stop this suicidal direction, which is like a cancer cell of unlimited growth.
So those plastic pollutants that you mentioned you saw in the ocean and were like the principal problem, have you seen them in the Portuguese coastline?
Oh, absolutely. You're not immune. Every wave that leaves what we call a line on the beach called the strand line, that has full of styrofoam, plastic pellets, earbud straws, and bottle caps, is happening everywhere. And there's no getting away from it. There's nobody that's immune from this invasion by plastic. That's why I'm calling it the plastic attack.
Yeah, in your presentation, you made like obvious that it will become a human health problem, a global human health problem.
It already is a human health problem.
And does the society know that?
Yeah, we didn't get into that today in my presentation, but there's evidence that the global obesity epidemic is tied to having everything wrapped in plastic that we consume, because plastic releases estrogenic hormones which put on body fat. It's as if you're acting like you want to make the whole world population as if they were becoming pregnant by adding fat cells, filling them up. That's what estrogens do. That's why a woman, when she becomes pregnant, releases more estrogen, puts on fat cells, has a greater appetite. That's happening to the whole population, men and women, and we have an obesity epidemic because of it. So plastic is already affecting our health. We just need to make people aware of it, and we need to stop it.
Okay, so what's your final message?
Final message is zero waste. We have to embrace the zero waste concept. We want to make Cascais the first zero waste city in Portugal. I've talked to the counselor there, a young woman, and she's willing to do that. She's willing to start on the road to zero. What we say is, if you're not in favor of zero waste, how much waste are you for? And we're not going to accept a world filled with our waste.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.